going on? Another episode of Idea Sex Discussion. I'm here with Michael Fernandez, who I met at a club in Miami called Action Club. So let's just start with that. What has a club like Action Club done for Michael Fernandez?
Well, Action Club is a goal-setting group. So what we do is we are accountability partners with anybody who walks through the door that has a specific goal in mind. And we don't discriminate against the goal. So whatever it is that you want to be working on, you walk through the door and we help you and support you week by week in achieving those goals. We talk through the week and we always end every discussion with action items for the next week. So that when we meet again, we go over the action items that we were supposed to work on. For me personally, it's been a game changer, honestly. I opened up a business because of it. I've been able to get a new job, a new day job because of it. I've met a lot of good people, and it's part of my ongoing program of self-development. So Accent Club has been fundamental in that.
AXEN, so you can find that on Facebook, AXEN Club. So let's break that down a little bit. So when you're thinking about your goals, there's probably three buckets if we're gonna really generalize. You have like your mind, body, you have your finances, career, and you have your relationship. So let's talk a little bit about some of the goals you have with your mind and body, and what ideas have you been thinking to execute on to get some of these goals, make them a reality?
I'm glad you asked that because I spent a lot of time actually thinking about the importance of not just health, but of mental health or emotional health. And activities like that where I'm with people that are like-minded, that are pursuing something, that are chasing something, that's an enriching experience because I get to bounce ideas off of them and kind of explain to them where I'm at right now. And they help me walk through that because many of them experience the same kind of things as I do.
So give us an example of an idea that you may have expanded on, or maybe one that you were doubting and you brainstorm with this group of people and it's shown you like a different way or a better way.
The weekly grind of actually saying I'm going to work on something, as an example, I have an online store, and part of that I have to make sure that there's marketing material available every other day, and there's a blog that I created. The simple act of saying that I'm going to write a blog post, it sounds simple. At least it sounded simple to me. But the idea that I'm going to write a 500 to 1,000 word blog post from now to Monday, which is when we have our meetings, Monday would come around and I wouldn't have done anything. And I would almost feel a sense of shame about not having worked on it. And I was always tempted to maybe not show up to the meeting, but one thing I committed to was showing up to the meeting and facing the music. And it wasn't even from a perspective of good or bad, right or wrong. I'm not wrong because I didn't write it. The value is in looking at what I did instead of writing it, or what was blocking me from writing it. Because a lot of times, I know what I have to do to be as successful as I want to be, but I don't do a lot of it. And the game is in figuring out why. What emotional blockages, what mental limits am I placing on myself that prevent me from actually working on those things? So something as simple as a blog post. I've gone an entire month and a half with not fulfilling any one of my action items week by week. And it takes some courage to kind of look people in the eye who I told last week I was going to work on this.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, I actually didn't do anything. Didn't do shit. Mm-hmm. And until it takes that one day where it's just like a snap where I woke up and I said, you know what, I'm going to show up for myself. And then I kick ass for a few months.
So we all have these obstacles. So what are some of the obstacles that were in the way of getting you to not take these actions for a month and a half until it finally came together, What is something that...
It's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
The big one for me is usually a self-limiting belief that either I'm not good enough to be working on this so people don't care, or that it's not worth it because I'll fail. So instead of actually putting in the work that's required to make it happen, I don't do the work and act as a self-fulfilling prophecy of failing. At least that's happened in the past. So a perfect example, I'll go back to the blog post. Let's say I've sat in the laptop, and once I get to the laptop and I start typing, then the writing isn't an issue. But it's the act of getting onto the laptop. It's, I should spend this evening going to my desk, opening up the laptop, but it's going to be too hard. Or I don't have something interesting to write about. Or who am I to talk about these things? Who am I to share these ideas? And it's getting the courage to be like, whether people want to listen to it or not, I'm in love with the process of expressing myself creatively. Or having the courage to be like, I have something worthwhile to share with people. And going through that experience and having people see me go through that experience, or me observing other people that I respect go through that experience, it's almost like a very, it makes me feel alive. It makes me feel alive to know that I'm not alone in the doubts.
Yeah.
The doubts of being a human, or the doubts of not being good enough, or being incompetent at something.
So before we transition to your finance and career goals and how you're overcoming them, what do you think of the concept of, to overcome, you have to start like if you're in kindergarten, you know, overcoming obstacles is a skill that needs to be built. And every time you sit at that computer, you are getting closer to becoming better at overcoming obstacles. So I think that's what I just want to leave you with, that, because I think you're doing a great job. And yes, sometimes, because I feel the exact same things, and that's why I don't go to action as much as I would like to, because I have clients sometimes till 8, 9 o'clock. But it's hearing other people that have the exact same doubts that I have that you know, that fuel me to continue to do it too. So when I started action, I had the same issue where I had just started my website, and I told myself I'm gonna write at least a blog a week, so 52, 51, how many weeks there are in a year, blogs. So that was, I wanna say, about 4 years ago. Now I have about over 200 blog posts. I don't know if anybody reads them. If you do want to read what I'm talking about, go over to sweatnation.world and read some of the stuff that I put together. By the way, what is the site that you are writing all of this?
So eternal-return.com is my online store.
Eternal-return, that's a pretty good name.
Yeah.
So now let's transition a little bit to finances, career. What are the main ideas you're working on right now to step up to the challenges of fulfilling what you have in mind for your finances and career at the moment?
Right now, the biggest objective is to buy a house. I want to buy a duplex and start getting into real estate investing. I've been saving for this for a few years now, getting ready to make this move. And you know what? I'll take this opportunity to just be vulnerable about something that I haven't really wanted to share with many people. You know, I still live at home with my mom. I still live with my parents, and I did that so that I can be in the position to make the move I'm about to make in the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And reflecting back on that, I would say a little bit of insecurity as to, you know, I'm already in my late 20s, I'm still living with my mom, I need to get out of here. But I kept grounding myself on why I was even doing it. You know, I have the money to live in a nice apartment.
Yeah.
I have the money to be in Brickell and Midtown. But I don't judge people for making the decisions they make. That's not what this is about. But my vision is a 10-year, 20, 30-year vision. So if that means sucking it up and maybe not having my own place for a few years, I willfully decided that I was going to do that so that I could begin investing in a portfolio in real estate. So for my financial goals, the biggest thing for me is first financial stability. So I live by my budget. It's like a cathartic daily exercise, making sure my budget is balanced. But it's also making those investments that are going to be a return over the next 10, 20 years, whether that be real estate, whether that be stocks, whether that be mutual funds, whether that be going on Lending Tree or lending a buddy money and charging him interest.
Yeah.
You know, ain't no shame in the game. You just get a return on your capital.
It's the game. It's the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. So what you're doing is basically you're running a marshmallow test on yourself, where you're delaying gratification now so that you can get a little bit more later.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's fantastic. So on the way over here, we brought up that we wanted to bring up a little bit about the midterms, so that we can get into some juicy stuff.
Okay.
So what angle is it that you're coming from with the politics of our day and all this stuff?
I think that we live obviously in a democracy, right? It's a constitutional republic, right? So like for the president, it's not a direct election, it's an electoral vote. But for most other positions, the music's getting a little loud. You want to go outside?
No, we're good.
I think what people lose sight of is that democracy is predicated on compromise. Or, if not predicated on compromise, it's predicated on what the majority want. So I think that we've kind of lost sight of the ability to, you know, broker a deal, if you will. I think that on both sides, there's a little bit too much of the moral high ground card being played. And when someone plays the moral high ground, it becomes immoral to concede or to compromise, right? So me and you want to build a table, right? And this table in front of us is square, but let's say before we build it, you wanted it to be a rectangle, I wanted it to be a circle, but we both want a table, right? If I feel that I have a moral obligation to build a circular table, there's no way I'm going to entertain any ideas you have about anything but a circular table.
Yeah.
And I think that people are getting too emotionally involved with their ideas and not thinking about actual governing. The pragmatic steps it takes in a democracy to be like, you know what, I'm not going to get everything I want, you're not going to get everything you want, but we're going to get a table.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a table that's going to be a place where other people that are not us to put food down.
Yeah.
And I know some might say that's a simple deductionist way to perceive the issue that we have, but I think it's a fundamental building block of democracy. That concept, the analogy of, let's meet in the middle. And we've definitely lost sight of that.
Well, we've definitely lost the moderate.
Yeah.
Right now.
And it's a big problem.
And so what are some solutions that I have some thoughts on things we can try, because right now we need to just try anything. So one of the ideas that I heard, and I heard it on a podcast, is this concept of ranked choice voting. So have you heard of the concept of ranked choice voting? I haven't thought about it. So ranked choice voting, first incentive that ranked choice voting gives is that more than 2 people will run. Because say 5 people run, you have to rank in order who you want the most to who you want the least. So say it's, hypothetically speaking, Trump, Hillary, Bernie, Andrew Gillum, and Beto. You got 5 people to choose from. You pick in the order that you want them in. So say you picked Beto number 1, but he loses. Now all of the ballots that have Beto number 5 or number 1, they look at your second vote and add them to the next person, and they keep on eliminating until there's 1 person left. So they actually do this in Ireland, and what they have found in Ireland is that it incentivizes the moderates, because you have to try to get, so maybe a lot of people don't think you're number 1, but if you're number 1, but then you have a lot of people who think you're number 5, so when all those people get knocked out, the people who are picking number 3 now get a little more action. So the people who are kind of moderate seem to be the ones that end up with the loudest voice, because most people pick them in the middle, since usually the top people are the most polarizing. So that's something that I heard the podcast and I was like, well, that's a good idea.
It definitely sounds like an interesting idea.
Try.
I think we could definitely try that at the local level.
And Maine just tried it for the first time.
Oh yeah.
So I have to check to see how it all worked out for them.
Interesting.
But Maine
I'd love to look that up.
time. So that's one thing that I've thought about. Another thing is we definitely have to use the technology we have to make voting easier.
Yeah.
You know, that should be the number one thing.
It's absolutely absurd in the state of Florida that in 2012, our electoral votes didn't even count. We were I believe it was 6 to 8 days late in submitting our electoral votes, and Obama had already been announced the winner of the general election against Mitt Romney. So essentially what that meant is that if you're a Florida citizen and you went to vote in the general election, your vote did nothing to contribute to the outcome of the general election. And I think that's absolutely unacceptable.
But did it do nothing because the mathematics were already so overwhelming that it wouldn't have mattered?
It took them 8 days to finalize the counts.
Yeah, so it shouldn't take that long to begin with.
It shouldn't take that long to begin with.
So, yeah.
Look at this. It just seems like every election cycle there's a controversy with elections in Florida.
For sure.
And that's unacceptable in a democracy. I mean, when is it going to be time for us to do something about it?
Well, in a democracy where we push entrepreneurism and we push technology and we are the leaders, or have been so far, of all these great technologies, and we can't even apply it to our own.
Why is government exempt from innovation?
They should not be. They should be subsidizing innovation.
Right now we have at the very least 2 recounts happening in the midterm elections. Is that by chance? It just, when it's a pattern, nothing seems by chance anymore. There's something broken.
Yeah.
And if you know what, unfortunately, and this is symptomatic of many other issues, this will go by the wayside. It'll be a headline for a few days, and then people are going to go on with their regular day lives.
It's already, like, we know it here because we live here, but the rest of the country is not thinking about what's happening here.
And it's kind of sad that Florida's the running joke for elections. Like, it's sad. We're better than that.
We should be. Yeah. So let's fix that. let's get the ranked choice voting. And now here's another, a little more radical idea that I've had. And it is, at this point in time, we don't even get 50% of our population to vote. 50% of the people don't even care to be engaged. So I have this idea where if you cannot get a minimum of 35% of your people, so I'm already lowering the bar a little, a minimum of 35% of the people to vote for anybody at all, combined, that you have to throw away those candidates and they have to start all over, because obviously they're not giving enough of something to get the people to get up and take action. So maybe that'll incentivize the people who want to run to really engage more with their communities, to get people to feel like you have to get out there and vote, because if not, nothing's gonna happen. And I think there also needs to be some sort of negative incentive to the population that if we don't get off our butts and go vote, something needs to incentivize us also to go out there and vote. So let's say if we don't get to that 35% because we think everybody's horrible, well, now you're going to have to start the process all over again. And now you have a year where absolutely really nothing is going to get done. And I mean nothing, like the roads won't get paved, the basic. So then
that would be pretty radical.
Then people are going to be like, all right, well, we got to at least pay attention enough to know. And if you got 5 or 6 choices because of the rank voting, it's like you're going to vote for somebody. Somebody's going to hit you. And they're going to be out there trying to get you to get out there. So I think that are some ideas that I have of things we can try to. And that's the thing. How do we even get this to become? How do we start the process?
By getting participation from the very people that we have problems with not even participating.
Well,
I mean, luckily in 2018 we had record voter turnout all across the country. Overall, Florida had 64% of all eligible voters show up to vote at the midterm elections,
64 is
which is
percent.
still, I mean, it's good relative to 0.
Yeah.
But why can't we have 100%? Why can't we have 95? I think part of the problem is education. I think people, they observe a lack of faith in institutions. They also think that their vote doesn't matter. They think that one vote in millions is inconsequential, which they just, I think they need to be educated on the idea that one vote is a force multiplier for multiple votes. Like one vote doesn't act in a vacuum. You're in contribution to a society that is actively participating in their own government.
Well, the thing is that one vote also does count for your local elections, which are the most important ones. Those are the ones you're going to feel the most.
Exactly,
you know, we get all
exactly.
riled up every 4 years for the president, but that up there is where you're going to feel the least. It's the guy next door that's
It's
voting
the city
on
commissioner.
Yeah.
It's the city rep. It's the councilman. It's your state rep. These people make decisions every quarter that affect how your neighborhood looks, the way that your zones are structured in your community. Like all these things are fundamental to your day-to-day experience, and it's a question of education. Like, here's a good one. Does everybody here know who their state rep is? Like in their address?
I don't even know off the top of my head.
Exactly.
Now, this is the thing. This is what I do, and this is why I think we should have technology. To me, voting is like a test. I need to memorize or write down my notes for that moment to see what I want. But after that, those notes go away and I'm free to.
You discard the idea.
What I did when I went to vote this time, I had my phone with all my notes on what I thought of each person, because I do look into every single candidate. I try to look at their voting record, see how close they resonate with me. But I don't remember all that stuff that I I was like, do I want this? Yes or no? What is the benefit of this? What is the benefit? Once that was over, that's it. I have the notepad in my house, but I haven't looked at it anymore, so I haven't retained that as knowledge that I'm gonna disseminate in everyday life. So I don't remember my state rep's name, but I do know that I picked something and that I did research it. I sat a whole day just looking.
And
got my notes.
And maybe this is an enabler's idea, but the idea that people just don't care or that this information is too complicated, I don't think that's an acceptable excuse. I think that we need to package the information in a way that everybody can easily retrieve it and use it when they need to. We need to put this information in such a way that at the snap of a finger, people could either be like, you know what, I don't know off the top of my head, but let me press one button and find out exactly what's going on. Yeah, exactly.
And see, oh, this is what they're talking about.
look, a good communicator knows that it's not what people, it's not what you say, it's what people hear.
Yeah.
So if you're not getting the outcome you want in a particular area, you're going to be much more effective regulating what your contribution to the situation is than having some external force change or demand that they change. So as people in government, as people who are interested in activism, shift the message in a way that's more easily received. Don't just blame the community. Don't just say these people don't get it. Don't dismiss them because we need them. Democracy is predicated in participation. We need to do everything we can to figure out the formula that equals the most participation.
Well, I think part of this, and this is a little now coming from a different angle, but we have an opioid epidemic, right? We have an opioid epidemic because people are in pain and they're trying to numb themselves. And if I had to guess, the people who are in these predicaments are probably not voting. So what can we do to heal people? What kind of ideas can we start to
that's a whole
expand on to heal people enough that they want to engage in their community around them, that they're not so introverted into their pain that they're trying to numb, that they just don't even want to interact with the world at all?
That's a loaded question.
Well, this is idea sex.
I think that is because we're more and more losing connection with God. And I'm going to use the word God in quotations because you can replace the word God with spiritual connection, oneness, whatever religion, whatever higher being it is that you respect. I think that when people lose sight of whether it is their purpose or why they're here or a force that grounds them and what it is to be human and to be in contribution to the world, the farther away we move from that, the closer we move to the escapism and numbing.
Or as Jordan Peterson would say, the more the closer you get to hell.
Exactly.
The closer you get to hell. So
people need something to believe in.
People need something to believe in.
And it starts with themselves. It starts with believing in themselves first. And the ones that don't believe it, giving them the tools to be able to address whatever demons are going on that we all have that have them feel any form of inadequacy.
And the thing is to know that we all have demons. And I don't want to say it's okay or not okay to have them. We have them. It's the relationship that you forge with them. Because, there's this concept that the ego is a bad thing. And the ego getting control of your emotions can be a very bad thing. But the ego getting enough charge of your self-respect is a good thing. You need to have enough ego.
Everything in
to
moderation.
even have self-respect. So, something I think, when I think of the God equation, what that makes me think of is purpose. I think when you have purpose, that is your God. Whatever that is. Some people's purpose is to worship God. That is their purpose. They find purpose in going to church Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, twice on Sunday, and that gives them a purpose to get up at every day and not be so angry because they don't have a purpose. So I don't know if there's a God or not scientifically, whatever that means, but I do know that it does serve a great purpose in people's lives, be it God, be it Buddha, be it Confucianism, be it whatever intellectual, spiritual connection they want to make. I do feel that it is a very necessary part of people's puzzle.
More important than a lot of intellectual people who very often, which I've done on the past, very arrogantly dismissed the need for it or dismissed it as a lesser understanding of the universe when in fact, no, I think you need it more than ever. We as people need it more than ever. I know that when I'm grounded in who I am is because I have whatever spiritual connection, a spiritual practice, whether it be meditation, whether it be reading, whether it be principles. It doesn't have to do anything with a religious leader. It could be, these are the principles that guide me, that guide how I navigate the world and the obstacles that the world provides me. And I like how you said it's about purpose. Like, what am I here for?
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to save the world, but you can save your world.
Yeah.
You can save the world of somebody else, and that's enough to live a meaningful life.
What do you think of the concept of saving your world? Is how you get closer to saving the whole world.
If you want to save the world, you save yourself first.
Yeah.
You want to rid the world of demons, you rid yourself of your demons first.
And you're never going to rid yourself of a demon. Because
it's a
there's yin and there's yang. It's always there. So again, it's the relationship you forge with those demons. Are you gonna let them drive you, or are you gonna be like?
Are you gonna run an automatic and let them, or are you gonna be in control? You know, you want people to be on time to your meetings. You have to make sure you show up to every appointment you've ever made for the rest of your life on time.
Yeah.
That's how you start.
That's how you be the example.
Yeah.
You have to be the
You think
example.
people should be healthier? You eat right. You start working out. Concern yourself with your inner temple first, and then you'd be in a position to be a leader for other people.
All right, so let's wrap this up with the last part of this, and is how is it that you're fostering good relationships these days? Be it business relationships, romantic relationships, family relationships. Because oftentimes people find that it's those people that are their obstacles, and you have to still learn how to manage it, but keep yourself together and keep yourself focused on your purpose. So how are you balancing, juggling relationships? Because relationships are complex. Because you can only control half of that.
For me, that's the number one thing that's a work in progress for me. And the way that I have been treating it lately, which I find has been the most productive, is getting in tune with my authentic self, like being honest with myself and the people around me first and foremost, and always trying to be in a position of contribution to the people that I love. Because I'm very big on loyalty, right? Not blind loyalty, but loyalty to the people who've been good to me, people that I perceive that are good people to be around me. Because obviously, you want to surround yourself with the right people, good people. But the way that I foster relationships is by being real, being authentic, I owe it to them and I owe it to myself to be sincere with how I'm feeling. Not just hide or try to control outcomes by placating or saying sorry or avoiding the hard conversations, because all that does is it creates disconnection and detachment when it would serve the relationship to be open and real and honest. Obviously,
and
some
it may be
relationships
hard at times to do that. It may
no,
be
it's
actually
extremely hard.
very difficult.
It's very difficult,
But at least people know who you are, where you're coming from, and there's no doubt. You know, you're not letting space for doubt to fill in, because once there's a lack of trust, it's very hard to rebuild something from there. And you know, I wasn't always that way. You know, in my 20s, when I got divorced and I was single, you know, I was the typical guy out there trying to tell the girls whatever they wanted so I can get what I wanted. But I did learn fairly quickly that that's how you end up with a lot more drama in your life. And then I started to take the approach, you know what, I'm just going to be honest with these girls and tell them what I want out of this whole thing. And yes, I would say that by percentage, I probably had less of what I was looking for. But when I did find somebody who was okay with that, those are people that, although I'm married now, I'm still friends with them to this day, because I was honest with them. And when you're honest with somebody, even if it doesn't work out, they're gonna always appreciate that. And you know, that person was honest with me, and I can trust that person for who they are.
And in the business context, the calculation is a little bit different. But in business, it's more of how can I be of value to people first, primarily. And that puts you in the best position to receive value back, because the value chain is a circle, right? It's not a one-way street. It's reciprocal. It's like a cycle.
You will get burned in the business world from time to time.
Absolutely, and in personal relationships, but that doesn't change your modus operandi. You continue forward because you're committed to the process. I'm committed to the process, not the outcome.
Well,
the process is where you fall in love. The outcomes are just the fruits of the tree you planted.
And you want to make sure you keep that your focus, because if you don't, that's where the seed of nihilism can get planted. Once you start, oh well, this guy's whatever.
Like,
I don't
what does
want to
it
deal
matter?
with people like
People
this.
suck anyway. It's all gonna fail. Why should I ask this girl out? We're gonna break up anyway. This guy's gonna screw me over in this business deal. Why do business? Like, I mean, I guess that's you can protect yourself from everything that could possibly happen, but
what are you protecting yourself from, really, in that way? Because now you're gonna have a lot less opportunities, or the opportunities you have are gonna be with people that are just like that. Because people who are trying to be reciprocal and give value back and back are not gonna they're gonna steer clear from that.
Where people get in trouble is that they think that the world should be a particular way. And where you will experience less resistance is just knowing that how things unfold are exactly how they were supposed to unfold. And it's gonna suck sometimes. There's gonna be disappointment. There's gonna be frustration. But that's part of the process. You know, resistance and pain are the currency of living.
Well, you tell me what you think of this, and we'll wrap it up with this concept. You know, people want things to make sense the way they want them to make sense. And something that I realized that made this world, universe, so much easier to be curious in is that I finally figured out that the universe is under no obligation to make sense to me.
Yeah.
Or you, or anybody. So once you realize that that is it, that nothing is under any obligation to go the way you want it to go, then you're free to see things as they are, in pure childlike curiosity.
You know, this brings up a story for me. The other night I was driving home, right? And in Miami, there's one thing everybody knows about Miami is that there's construction happening all the time, everywhere, in the most inconvenient time.
Yeah.
So I'm driving home, it's like 1 in the morning, I shouldn't have been out that late, want to go home and go to sleep, go to work. And I got off on my regular exit and there's construction that blocks off the entire road.
Yeah.
Where I have to literally spend an additional 15 minutes to go completely around the highway to get back home. So I got there and I was extremely frustrated at the construction. I'm like, woe is me, why does this happen? I stopped myself and I said, circumstances don't care about how I feel.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? The construction's gonna be the construction.
Yeah.
The construction guy working, he didn't plan this out because Michael was driving home at that time. Let's screw over Michael. No, they just gotta have to get something done. So what did I do? I processed the anger and frustration. I'm like, all right, now let's solve it. What is there's construction. Now I just have to take an alternate ride home.
Yeah.
When I accepted that, put on some music, got home. Yeah, I got home 20 minutes later, but you know what? I didn't go home raging. Was able to go right back to sleep.
Yeah.
And that's a simple analogy for what you can expand, or what I've expanded to the rest of my life. The big things, the little things, the crises, and the minor annoyances.
All right, I think with that we'll wrap it up, Michael.
Thank you for your time. I had a great time.
Thank you very much. Well, maybe one day we'll do it again because we got
Absolutely.
more ideas to talk about. So that's
sure.
it for this episode of Idea Sex Discussions. Peace and love.
See you guys soon.